Kamla had always believed in love and loyalty. When she married Rajiv, she thought she had found the partner who would stand by her through thick and thin. Her life in Houston had been modest but comfortable, filled with hope and dreams of building a family together. She had left her own parents' home at 25 with a heart full of optimism, eager to embrace her new life. At first, Rajiv seemed charming, attentive, and supportive. His family, the Patels, welcomed her warmly, or so it seemed. The cracks began to show within months. Small comments, seemingly innocuous, cut deeper than she realized. "Why don't you dress more like my sister-in-law?" Rajiv's mother would say during visits. "You know, it's important to look like a proper Patel daughter-in-law." Kamla had smiled politely, swallowing the sting, believing it was her imagination. But the undercurrent of disdain was unmistakable. The real betrayal came one stormy night. Kamla had stayed late at work, hoping to secure a promotion that would finally give her financial independence. She arrived home to find the lights dimmed and an uneasy silence in the house. Rajiv met her at the door, his smile too sharp, too rehearsed. "Kamla, we need to talk," he said, his tone clipped. Inside, the living room was eerily quiet. Rajiv's parents sat stiffly on the couch, their expressions cold, almost calculating. Kamla's stomach sank. She had a terrible feeling, though she didn't yet know the full extent. "Kamla," his father began, his voice low. "We've been patient. But it's clear you're not contributing as expected. You have no job, no savings, no plans. This house, it's not your place to take for granted." Her heart raced. "What are you saying?" she asked, her voice trembling. Rajiv leaned forward, his face void of emotion. "We've decided you can't stay here anymore. Pack your things." The words felt like blows. Kamla staggered back, clutching her chest. I can't believe this." "Rajiv, please, we can talk about this." "Don't argue," his mother cut in sharply. "We've made our decision. You're done here." In that moment, all the illusions of love and family crumbled. The people she had trusted most, the ones who had promised to be by her side, had turned against her. Kamla gathered what little she could carry and stepped into the cold night, the rain soaking her hair and clothes. Her dreams felt shattered, her life uncertain, and yet a small ember of resolve burned within her. She would not let this define her. The following years were a battle for survival. Kamla took odd jobs, working late into the night, cleaning offices, tutoring children, delivering food, anything that could put a meal on her table. She rented a small, cramped apartment in a forgotten corner of the city, but she refused to let despair consume her. Every setback fueled her determination. She learned quickly, adapted faster, and grew stronger. Through the long nights of exhaustion, Kamla found an unexpected strength within herself. She enrolled in online courses, improving her skills in finance and management. Slowly, doors began to open. A small startup took notice of her persistence and hired her for a managerial role. She excelled, her intelligence and tenacity shining through, and within a few years she founded her own consultancy firm. As Kamla's success grew, so did her confidence. She rented an elegant apartment in a better part of Houston, furnished it tastefully, and surrounded herself with a small circle of friends who respected and supported her. She learned to smile again, but her heart bore the memory of betrayal, a reminder of the people who had cast her out. Then, 10 years later, the past came knocking. A letter arrived at her office, marked with the familiar family name. Kamla's hands trembled as she opened it. Inside was a terse message. They wanted the house she had purchased, claiming she had no right to keep it. The audacity stunned her. Her husband, the man who had left her in the rain with nothing, now expected her to surrender the life she had built from scratch. Kamla's mind raced. How had they found out about her house? How dare they assume they had any claim? She recalled the nights she had cried herself to sleep, the hunger, the despair, but also the fierce determination that had carried her through. This was not a time for fear. It was a time for clarity, for asserting the life she had earned. When Rajiv appeared at her doorstep, flanked by his parents, Kamla stood tall. She remembered the rain-soaked night a decade ago and the helplessness she had felt. Now the tables had turned. Rajiv looked older, his charm faded, replaced by a hollow arrogance. "We're here for the house," he said. Trying to mask uncertainty with authority, Kamla smiled. Not maliciously, but with calm certainty. "I think you've misunderstood something. This house was purchased with my effort, my blood, and my resilience. It belongs to me." The confrontation was tense. Words were exchanged, each one cutting, each one revealing buried secrets and grudges. Kamla learned with a mixture of shock and vindication that Rajiv and his parents had assumed she would never rise beyond her circumstances, that she would remain powerless. They never expected her to transform her pain into power. The legal threats, the accusations, and the emotional manipulation that followed were relentless. Kamla faced them with a combination of intellect, courage, and a calm fury. Each meeting, each negotiation, each calculated move was a step in reclaiming her dignity and asserting her independence. She discovered evidence of past deceit, Rajiv's schemes, the in-laws' attempts to control and humiliate her, which she kept meticulously, knowing the day of reckoning would come. Through this process, Kamla also discovered her own capacity for forgiveness. She realized that clinging to hatred would only corrode her peace. The betrayal had shaped her, but it did not define her. She could face them, assert her boundaries, and still maintain her humanity. As the confrontation reached its peak, with the family desperate and cornered, Kamla stood her ground. She presented her evidence, her achievements, and her unwavering resolve. The family, once so confident in their dominance, faltered under the weight of their own deceit and her unshakable truth. In the end, Kamla did not seek revenge in the conventional sense. She did not humiliate them publicly or seek to destroy them. Instead, she reclaimed her space, her life, and her peace. The house remained hers, not as a symbol of victory over others, but as a testament to her journey, her resilience, and her unwavering spirit. She watched them leave, not with triumph in her eyes, but with a quiet dignity. They had underestimated her, assumed she was weak, and dismissed her potential. Kamla had risen above, not by breaking others, but by building herself. She had transformed betrayal into strength, despair into opportunity, and abandonment into empowerment. Standing in the sunlight streaming through her living room windows, Kamla allowed herself a deep breath. The past no longer held power over her. The storm had passed, and in its wake she had grown into someone unshakable, someone who could face life with courage, wisdom, and grace. Her phone buzzed with messages from colleagues, friends, and even distant acquaintances, celebrating the success of her firm. Kamla smiled, a genuine, unguarded smile. The echoes of betrayal were still there, but they no longer defined the rhythm of her life. She had emerged victorious, not through vengeance, but through the quiet, powerful art of resilience. And so Kamla's story became a legend among those who knew her, not for the betrayal she suffered, but for the extraordinary strength she cultivated in its aftermath. The house was not just a building. It was a symbol of a life rebuilt, a heart mended, and a spirit that could never be taken. Even as her past loomed in memory, Kamla moved forward, her life richer, fuller, and infinitely more empowered than she had ever imagined on that rainy night 10 years ago. The days following the confrontation at her doorstep were tense. Kamla could feel the weight of her past pressing against the life she had painstakingly rebuilt. Rajiv and his parents were not the sort to vanish quietly. Their sense of entitlement and arrogance meant they would search for any opening, any weakness, to reclaim what they had always believed was theirs. But Kamla was no longer the frightened, jobless young woman they had discarded 10 years ago. She had learned to anticipate, to observe, and to act with calculated precision. Her first move was subtle. She ensured every legal document regarding her house, finances, and business was airtight. She reviewed property records, contracts, and communications. Every loophole that might have allowed Rajiv or his family to challenge her ownership was closed. She even engaged a trusted attorney, someone with the sharp mind and ruthless approach she lacked in her younger years. Kamla had learned from betrayal that preparation was power, but preparation alone was not enough. She needed to understand the full extent of the deceit, the secret schemes Rajiv and his parents had woven over the years. She began discreet inquiries, contacting mutual acquaintances, former colleagues, and even business contacts of Rajiv's family. What she uncovered sent a chill down her spine. Financial manipulations, covert property transfers, and a network of lies meant to isolate and control her during her early married life. They had assumed she would remain powerless, that poverty and humiliation would define her. Yet Kamla's tenacity surpassed even her own expectations. She pieced together the puzzle with relentless focus, each revelation fueling her resolve. She discovered that Rajiv had drained her joint savings account shortly after their first anniversary, funneling money into offshore accounts his parents controlled. She found evidence of his attempts to sabotage her professional growth, including false rumors planted among colleagues to prevent opportunities. Every deceitful move was meticulously documented by Kamla, her careful attention creating a web of undeniable proof. Despite the anger and shock, Kamla remained calm. She realized that her greatest weapon was her own composure. Rage, she knew, could blind her. Patience and strategy would not. She allowed Rajiv and his parents to make the first move, observing their desperation, their veiled threats, and their increasingly reckless attempts to intimidate her. Each encounter revealed more of their panic, confirming what she already suspected. They were losing control, and they knew it. One evening, Rajiv appeared at her office unannounced. Kamla had just finished a meeting and was reviewing financial reports when his voice echoed in the lobby. "Kamla, we need to talk," he said, feigning a tone of conciliatory concern. Kamla rose slowly, meeting his gaze. "I'm listening," she said, her voice steady, betraying none of the storm within. He smiled, thin and forced. "We just want to find a solution. Surely we can come to an agreement." Kamla tilted her head slightly, letting the silence stretch. "I've reviewed every possibility, Rajiv. You have no claim here. The house, the business, my achievements, they are mine because I earned them, not because of you or your family." His smile faltered. For the first time, Kamla saw fear flash across his face. We just thought—" "You thought I would remain weak," Kamla interrupted, her voice rising slightly, edged with calm authority. "You thought abandonment and humiliation would stop me. You underestimated me, and that was your mistake." Rajiv left that evening with a hollow fury, his in-laws' disappointment and panic evident behind their closed doors. Kamla's presence had unsettled them, not because she sought revenge, but because she embodied the life they had attempted to deny her. Weeks passed, and Kamla continued her quiet, relentless campaign. She reached out to financial institutions where Rajiv and his parents held accounts, uncovering more hidden maneuvers. Each discovery added to her growing arsenal of evidence, yet she restrained herself from acting immediately. Patience, she knew, would amplify the impact when the time came. Then came the day that would fully turn the tide. Kamla received an anonymous tip, a former family associate, disillusioned with the Patel's schemes, provided her with documentation proving that Rajiv and his parents had attempted to forge her signatures on property transfer papers years earlier. This was the smoking gun, the irrefutable proof that they had plotted against her from the very start of their marriage. Kamla's pulse quickened, but she maintained her composure. She compiled the evidence meticulously, arranging it in a manner that left no room for doubt. The narrative was clear. They had betrayed her systematically, manipulated her finances, and attempted to erase her identity and achievements. With the evidence secured, Kamla called for a meeting with her attorney. The strategy was simple yet brilliant. She would confront Rajiv and his parents not through public spectacle, but through an unassailable legal and moral position. She would force them to face the truth, to see the consequences of their actions without her needing to strike out in anger. The confrontation took place in the attorney's office. Rajiv and his parents entered, their confidence brittle and faltering. Kamla remained seated, serene, almost luminous in her calm power. Her attorney began presenting the documentation. Every forged signature, every manipulated account, Every deceitful scheme was laid bare. The family's previous arrogance crumbled under the weight of irrefutable evidence. Rajiv's parents exchanged glances, their silent panic betraying them. Rajiv himself turned pale, realizing that the woman they had once dismissed as powerless now stood as their unyielding adversary. Kamla's voice was quiet but unwavering. "I am not here to destroy you. I am here to reclaim my life, which you tried to steal. The house is mine, the business is mine, and the respect I command is mine. This is not vengeance. It is justice. The justice you denied me for too long." The room was heavy with tension. No one dared interrupt. The enormity of her words, combined with the weight of the evidence, left Rajiv and his parents speechless. For the first time in their lives, they confronted the consequences of their actions, not in theory, but in reality. And then, in a remarkable act of strength and compassion, Kamla offered them an olive branch. "You may have lost your way, but I will not allow hatred to consume me. You will leave this chapter behind with dignity, or you will leave it broken. The choice is yours. I will not compromise my peace for your arrogance." Tears welled in Rajiv's mother's eyes. Kamla saw the flicker of regret, the first glimmer of acknowledgement that their actions had been monstrous. Rajiv remained silent, his pride battered but unbroken. Kamla understood that while she could offer forgiveness, she could not change who they were, only control how she responded. In the following weeks, the Patels withdrew. They retreated from the house, from the legal battles, and from attempts to influence Kamla's life. The threat they had posed was neutralized, not through vengeance, but through unwavering strength and moral clarity. Kamla, in turn, solidified her life. Her business expanded, her network of friends and colleagues flourished, and she became known not just as a survivor, but as a leader, a woman who transformed betrayal into empowerment. The house, once the symbol of her family's control over her, became a sanctuary of her triumph. Yet even in victory, Kamla never forgot the lessons of the past. She knew the fragility of trust, the danger of misplaced loyalty, and the power of resilience. Each morning, she walked through her home with gratitude and quiet reflection, aware of the storms she had weathered and the strength she had cultivated. The final act of Kamla's redemption was subtle, personal, and profound. She reached out to a few distant relatives she had once loved, not to rekindle old attachments, but to rebuild connections on her terms. She extended kindness to those who had been sincere, while maintaining firm boundaries with those who had betrayed her. In doing so, she discovered a deeper peace than victory alone could provide. Years later, Kamla would look back on that stormy night when she was cast out by the man she loved and the family she had trusted. She would remember the fear, the despair, and the endless struggle. But she would also remember the transformation, the resilience, the intelligence, and the unwavering courage that had carried her through. Her story became a quiet legend in her community. Not for revenge or spectacle, but for the extraordinary journey of a woman who turned betrayal into empowerment, heartbreak into wisdom, and abandonment into triumph. She had lived through the darkest chapters of human cruelty, yet emerged with a heart unbroken and a spirit untamed. In the sunlight streaming through her windows, Kamla often reflected on the truth she had learned. Life may betray you. People may abandon you, but your courage, your integrity, and your perseverance are yours alone. No one can take them away, and no one can diminish the person you become when you rise above the darkness. The house stood as a monument to her journey, a place of safety, achievement, and peace. Kamla had not only reclaimed her life, she had rewritten her destiny. And as she moved forward, ever vigilant, ever strong, she knew one undeniable truth: betrayal could not destroy her. It could only reveal the extraordinary power that had been within her all along. Kamla's eyes, reflecting the morning light, held serenity and strength. She had faced the storms of life and emerged radiant, unshaken, and unafraid. Her past no longer chained her. Her present was hers, fully and triumphantly claimed. And the future, vast and unwritten, awaited her with endless possibility. If you liked my story, please like the video, subscribe to our channel, and share it with as many people as possible. Thanks for watching.